Dawn is breaking over a remote military camp, situated right on the edge of a roaring alpine river. A detachment of armed guards approaches a reinforced log guardhouse. They feverishly unlock the heavy iron restraints on the door, preparing to drag a prisoner out for a morning court-martial. But as the heavy door swings open, the guards freeze. The room is entirely empty. On the wooden floor lie the heavy bonds that held the prisoner, snapped clean through and discarded. The only evidence of the violence from the night before remains on the ground: the shattered pieces of a commanding officer's steel sword, and the critically injured officer himself, left bleeding and motionless. Within minutes, the camp erupts into a frenzy. The entire regiment mobilizes, grabbing rifles and forming search parties. A highly trained, heavily armed military force is now actively hunting down a single missing man in the frozen wilderness. To understand why a full infantry regiment reacts with this level of alarm to a single missing man, we have to look at the specific psychological environment these soldiers had been cultivating for months. The missing man is a soldier named Jean Rasteau, known to everyone in the camp simply as Samson. He is a man of immense size, but his defining characteristic has never been aggression. It is his almost unnatural, stone-like patience. This passive nature made him a prime target for a smaller, notoriously cruel soldier in the regiment, a man described by others as a diminutive, bullying gnat. Samson found himself caught in a paralyzing psychological trap. He refused to strike back against his tormentor because he knew the reality of his own physical power. One punch from him would easily crush the smaller man's skull. This animated gauge visualizes exactly what happens when restraint is misinterpreted as cowardice. Seeing Samson wouldn't fight back, the regiment joined in. The daily harassment stacked up, a constant, suffocating accumulation of insults, extra chores, and physical shoves. Boundless restraint in the face of continuous cruelty does not create submission. It compresses all that tension inward into the man's mind, creating a highly pressurized situation just waiting for a single spark to ignite. That spark arrives over a simple pail of water. Samson trips on the riverbank, spilling a portion of the water he was ordered to carry. The smaller soldier immediately launches into a vicious, disproportionate tirade of verbal abuse. Hearing the commotion, the commanding officer steps in, but rather than restoring order or stopping the bullying, he turns his authority directly against the victim, demanding Samson submit to the abuse. When Samson refuses to answer the officer's demands, the commander draws a lithe rattan cane. He viciously strikes the giant twice directly across the face, raising thick, angry right welts on his skin. The pressure valve finally blows. Samson lunges. He picks the commanding officer up over his head with terrifying ease, holding him like a small child, and dashes him onto the hard ground with a sickening crunch. Cornered, maddened, and surrounded by a hedge of bayonets, Samson is thrown into the guardhouse. By repeatedly punishing his patients, the regiment has successfully stripped away the only moral constraint holding his physical strength in check. Which brings us back to the present morning. The sun climbs higher, casting its light on the treacherous, snow-covered peaks circling the valley where the military camp sits. A sharp-eyed private scanning the ridge suddenly shouts. High up on the great white slope south of the valley, a tiny black speck is moving. A wave of horrifying realization washes over the officers peering through their field glasses. Samson hasn't run away into the wilderness. He has climbed directly above them. This topographical cross-section shows the peril they are in. Notice the military camp at the very bottom of the valley, and look at the massive, unstable snowpack perched directly over the regiment. Samson has positioned himself precisely at the structural weak point of that overhang. By climbing that ridge, Samson has inverted the geography of the hunt. He has positioned himself to force a terminal confrontation on his own terms. In the biblical story, a blinded Samson reaches out for the central pillars of the Philistine temple, choosing to crush himself so long as he can bring the roof down on his captors. On the mountain, the modern Samson commits his final act. He throws his immense weight against the precarious snowpack, physically forcing the slope to collapse. Millions of tons of white powder roar down into the valley, instantly burying the camp. When recovery teams eventually dig through the debris, they find the frozen bodies of the regiment, a look of the wildest terror permanently etched onto their faces. But when they finally reach Samson, they find a stark contrast. Every bone in his giant frame is shattered, yet his face is entirely at peace. He sleeps as calmly as if resting under the blue waters off the coast of Brittany. Pushed entirely beyond the limits of human endurance, Samson found his escape. He traded his life to become a force of nature, proving that relentless cruelty eventually creates the very instrument of the oppressor.
Want to hear more horrifying, revenge, real stories? Some stories are too dark to forget. Subscribe to Storybook for more horror and revenge, real stories.